I am very excited to have my next guest join us. He just dropped his debut album earlier this year called Smiling with No Teeth. And now we got a supplement out of nowhere called Missing Molars. Genesis Owusu. Dude.
How you doing?
Thank you so much for your time. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm very excited to talk to you. I'm a big fan. We're not too far removed from Missing Molars getting released, and it's kind of a supplement to the album. And I'm kind of curious, how does it feel to push those songs out to the world and the reception that it's been getting?
Yeah, it feels good. All of those songs were made at the exact same time we made the standalone album, and we just had so much music. And those tracks in particular were tracks that the standalone album is a narrative. You know, it's very conceptual, and there are a lot of tracks we made like 60 hours of music altogether. So there were tracks that didn't quite fit into the specific story points that I wanted, but I still felt like they were special tracks in their own right. So it felt good to just release more music and yeah, give more to the people, I guess.
I can imagine. And especially when the album is so well received, your story is just so fascinating. And I wanted to ask a lot about the origins of Genesis Owusu, because your name is not Genesis. Let's get that out of the way. You were born, and I forgive my pronunciation, Kofi?
Kofi Boateng Owusu Ansa.
Correct. And you have a
Yeah.
brother who performs at Citizen K,
Mhm.
and he is doing his own music and has won accolades and things like that. And so you started as Genesis when you're around 14 years old, from what I understand. So what is the genesis of Genesis?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in a very musical family. Everyone was music appreciators of different genres. My mom, to this day, is still the leader of her church's like gospel choir. My older brother, before he started making hip hop, he was in like rock bands when I was really young in like primary school. And my dad was just a general music appreciator of anything with like a great album cover. So I was surrounded by music from a young age. And I actually tried to avoid like making music just because I have this older brother of 5 years that was already making music, and everyone expects the younger brother to like follow in the footsteps. So I was like, nah, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do something else. But he had hijacked our family rooms, like our family home's study, as his own personal studio. So it was like unavoidable at a point. And he finally reeled me in. He was producing beats at that time, and he was making beats and giving them to me over and over again. Rap on this, because I was doing poetry, so I was good with words. And he finally reeled me in at one point, and I wrote my first verse in a public bathroom, and that was the genesis of Genesis. And it's all history from there, I guess.
Now, the story of your brother roping you in, what did he see? It's almost as if he was a talent scout or something. He saw something in you. It's one thing to have the words written down. It's another to actually perform.
Mm. Yeah, I don't know. That's a great question. I feel like I don't know. I guess maybe because the whole house was musical, and I was already. I think when he built his studio in our house, he had just gotten into rap. Like so, like I said before, he was into rock before. So me, I guess, being already in tune with words and wordplay, he just saw something that I didn't at the time, and he wrote me in.
It wasn't
But
like
in
you were.
regards to,
It
sorry,
wasn't
you
like
go.
you were secretly in your room rapping to Rage Against the Machine or Beastie Boys or something like that.
No, I don't think so. I don't think he ever heard that. That was definitely the case, but I don't think he ever heard that.
We'll get into the album shortly here, and it's focused on serious things, serious feelings in terms of depression and racism. And as an immigrant to Australia from Ghana, I'm curious, what were your parents' plans? What did they envision for you and your brother to move from Ghana to Australia, and also picking Canberra in particular because of the fact that the demographics are not as diverse as other cities like Sydney or Melbourne or and so forth.
Mm. I mean, they definitely didn't expect music. That's for one. It was. I feel like in the initial stages, it was kind of a very um, typical immigrant mentality of like, we're going to this other country to give our kids these benefits of education so they can have these great um, money raking in careers, like being a doctor or engineer or something like that. I think that was definitely in their mind of just giving us these opportunities. Um, and they did give us these opportunities. And I don't think they realized what kind of the vast amount of opportunities that they gave us.
As you were growing up, and because of the themes of the album, when did the feelings of being an outsider start to become prevalent? And also, in terms of the firsthand experience of racism and those kind of things.
Definitely pretty much the first day of school. The first day I stepped into school, it was like a mutual astonishment for both me and the other kids of like, damn, there's really no other black people or people of color anywhere. And the other kids were like, wow, that's a black person. Like I've never seen a black person before. So it was like, yeah, it was this mutual astonishment. And it was a very obvious separation. I think in regards to racism, from that moment to most of my schooling years, there were obviously malicious and intentional moments and events, but I think for the most part, just geographically, it came from have that huge lack of exposure to anyone other than white people, and they just didn't really know how to interact, how to communicate, how to relate to anyone that wasn't white. Um, and me, in those formative years, I had to learn how to be black without those kinds of black role models to guide me, because everyone black that I knew came to the country with me. So they were like going through the exact same things at the exact same time.
And your experience, from what I understand, is also somewhat, or your reaction to that experience, from what I understand, is very different than the path your brother took, right?
Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
brother,
So
your brother took the path of, hey, I'm just going to try to fit in. I'm in this new space. I'm one of you.
I think having an older brother, especially of 5 years, has been like such a huge benefit, because it's kind of like being able to see into the future to some extent, and just like see, if I go down this path, this is what will happen. And that's not to say that he chose the wrong path, because there's no wrong or right in my opinion, but I just saw what that did, and I didn't think that was fitting for me, because I felt like I had to I couldn't be myself trying to conform to what these people wanted me to be. So I chose the other option, rather than just trying to assimilate, to try and be the most outside that I can be. And I felt like it would be easier to find myself in that space than it would be trying to like please all these other people. So I like decided to speak as differently as possible, dress as differently as possible, listen to everything that everyone else wasn't listening to, essentially like be a contrarian. Like I was essentially just trying to be as different as possible to find out what actually resonated with me.
Here in the States, we always hear about the Black experience, and it's certainly come to the forefront in the last 18 months, which I want to talk about shortly as well. Is that a lot of Black families will have that conversation with their kids at some point at a certain age about the experience, not only dealing with police brutality and all the other aspects of racism, but also just subtle racism and how to not fit in, but how to deal with those situations. Did your parents, did the other authoritative figures in your family help with that? Did they see that?
I think it was helpful in the, I guess, frame of unity and solidarity. But in regards to advice, like I said before, like we all came at the exact same time. Ghana is almost as homogenous as Canberra is. It was all black people. Um, so they were going through the same shocks as me, the same experiences in their grown workplaces as I was in the schoolyard. So I really had to find my own way almost entirely.
The music here has basically been recorded from before the events of 2020, right? When
Yeah.
did the words start to come to fruition, and how did the events of the George Floyd protests and the international protests come into play?
Lyrically, it was written before that as well. Um, it was almost strange. It was interesting because a lot of the people on my team who I was making the album with and fine tuning it with almost saw it as like some sort of prophecy. It's like, damn, like how this is so crazy. You just recorded this and now this, like, how did you know this? And it's like a sad thing to say. It wasn't prophetic. It was just me talking about the things that have been happening for forever. Like it was it was me talking about, Eric Gardner, and it was me talking about indigenous deaths that have been happening in Australia in police custody. um it it's it's it was sad to say it wasn't, yeah, it wasn't prophetic or anything like that. It wasn't referenced from those specific uh events of George Floyd. It was something that I've been thinking for a long time.
Seeing that the material had come out early this year, did any of the events affect some of the writing, meaning that you might have changed a few lyrics or then infused a few things that might have influenced it?
um I think if anything, it just strengthened the resolve to release it. If anything, it just solidified the fact that this needed to come out. Like I said before, like I made 60 hours of music. The album could have been completely different. But a lot of that was recorded, yeah, before these events, and these events, if anything, just solidified that people need to hear this specific version.
Well, we're really looking forward to seeing you perform these songs live. Just to see you perform in general is going to be, so worthwhile and worth the wait for us. And I really appreciate you taking time for doing this. Big fan, man.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it a lot, and I can't wait to get over there. It's going to be amazing.